Hi, Nicole. So it's just on the slower side. She does have some head shake, so I didn't know if you were just trail walking here, because we could consider that a trail walk, or if you were trying to go for a flat walk. But if you're trying to go for a flat walk, then I would have this gait be a little bit faster, like a mile or 2 per hour faster. Your eyes are good. You're looking up where you're going. You have very nice equitation, shoulder over your hip, your heel underneath your hip. So all of that looks very good. When you go to stop, I like to give the horse pre-cues. It's up to you if you want to do this or not, but it teaches the horse to actually stop without putting pressure on him. So when you're going to stop, what I do is I sit back, I lean back a little bit, kind of on my seat pockets. I take my leg off. I take a deep breath in through my mouth, like deep breath. I say, whoa, and then I pull. So it gives the horse all these pre-cues ahead of time so they know. As you go to stop here, it's a little sudden, and then you fall forward. So see that right there? So you're falling forward a little bit, and a forward body usually is telling the horse to go because they try to catch your balance. So try to make sure you're sitting back. Then it looks like you're doing a turn on the forehand, which would be your right rein and leg, and then your left rein and leg kind of support, and your left rein holds or pulls back if this horse starts to move forward. So when you do a turn on the forehand, you want your body more upright like it just was before, and then you want to look towards the shed, towards the shed row over here, and then you want to look in this direction. So as you start to go, I would like your eyes to be more ahead, like looking more to the right. And then I would hold a little bit more with that left rein so the front feet don't move as much. So I would be pulling a little bit more on your left rein, your outside rein right here, because the right rein is telling the horse which way to go and tilting its head a little bit. And then the left rein prevents the horse from walking forward. So you need to pull a little bit more. And then you want to keep looking right so the horse knows where to go. And then you want to hold there. So you want to pull a little bit more on both reins, because even though she moved, the fence kind of catches her, but once you turn here, there's nothing to catch her except for you. So you want to pull on both those reins to make this a little bit cleaner and get her to move just her hind quarter and not her front end. It's very important they understand the cues properly and respond properly. So, and then there, you're falling forward again. Your eyes are good, but you're falling forward. And then you let her walk off. So I always do the turn on the forehand at a standstill, because horses are all about shortcuts. So if you don't break it down into parts and you don't do steps, they just start speeding through things. And in time, she's just going to spin around and go the other direction without correct form. So make sure you stop before you do it. Even stop halfway through the turn on the forehand to make sure your horse understands not to go. And then once you've completed the turn on the forehand and you're facing the other direction, stop. And I like to get the horse's head down and get him to give to the bit and stand there for a bit and then walk off. I'm just going to let it go through the whole thing. So lean back, stand there for a minute. Turn your head, right rein and leg, but pull more on your left rein and to keep the horse standing still more, and then I wouldn't have walked off, okay? Pretty horse at this slower speed. You have a nice 4-beat foot fall, so each leg is landing independently, and that's very important for when we start doing gait. If this is a pivot, you can go on pivot and show them what's happening. Sometimes you got to slow down the tracking speed and make sure that you have yourself centered in the middle, because it gives you options if you want yourself over here and here. So just double check everything, since it was doing something a little bit weird there with the, again, if it's a pivot. And so again, if you're trying to do a flat walk, this is a little slow. If you're trying to do a trail walk, then this is perfectly fine. So here again, you're still doing you're doing a trail walk. Then you start to speed up And right there is your flat walk, and then you go right. And then you go right past it and you take your horse up into a running walk. Walk, okay? Foxtrotters can do running walks, and they can saddle gait, and they can foxtrot. It just depends on the horse. So you do have head shake there, but it's a more lateral gait. So it's more of a running walk, even though the horse doesn't have a lot of overstride. And it can be tricky because you think since it's head shake, it must be a foxtrot. But you see, you're not. You see, you're not getting much bounce in the saddle. It's quite smooth. Your halt is pretty good. I would just get his head down, and then I would lean back because, again, you're a little far forward. And then I like to pull and release with my hands. And as I pull, I then engage my leg, because it teaches the horse, the pull shows you the direction, so backwards, and leg means go. So that way they can understand the difference when I put pressure on just to get their head down and when I put pressure on for them to back up. Now here it looks like you're trying to do a turn on the haunches, which means the back end stays still and the front end moves around. When you do this, you want your upper body back further, and then you open up this rein, but you don't pull back on it. You just hold a light contact. This leg relaxes and loosens up, and this rein is going to go right against your horse's neck. So you're guiding him in this direction, and then you want your eyes coming this way as you push with your left leg right at the girth. So if you are trying to do a turn on the haunches, you pull too much on your inside rein, your right rein. As soon as you pull back on that rein, instead of pulling it out, it causes the horse's hind quarter to move. So with the turn on the haunches, we don't want that hind quarter to move. So you're trying to pull that rein out, lean back, and then hold that rein too so the horse doesn't go forward, and then just push with your left leg right at the girth. So he's moving around too much, and then he doesn't move off this leg. We're trying to do a turn on the forehand here. Then it would have been a little right rein, just a little, because again, if you pull back too much, it makes them move too much. So it'd be a little right rein in your right leg. But the horses don't do that well when there's a fence here, because the fence is blocking them. So say you were doing a turn on the forehand here, you'd still want to lean back. It would be your right rein and leg, but you're trying just to move the hind quarter, and the horse really doesn't have room to move here. So when I do a turn on the forehand, I always tell people forehand, turn to the fence. Turn on the haunches, turn in. So if you were doing the turn on the forehand, instead, you should have turned to the left and used your left rein and leg, because that would have pushed the hind quarter this direction, and then the horse would have had room to move around. So I just don't know which turn it was, but if it was the turn on the forehand, turn the opposite way and then do everything I said previously. But he just kind of walks the turn and he's like, I don't know what she wants. I'm just going to keep going. So he's a cute horse. He did a good job. We just have to be clear where we do the things. And just remember, turn on the forehand, always turn towards the fence. So there you're getting up to a running walk again. So you see the head shake. You can see the legs going laterally. So it's left hind and then left front. At times you get a little bit fast and he gets almost like a little gate-a-lope going on. So you kind of get a little hop in the step. But he does have a nice gait. It looks quite smooth. And the headset, since he's doing a good job here, it's fine. I'm going to talk about the headset in a little bit to distinguish between your two gaits. Hop in his step. If you don't like that, I would just slow it down just a tiny bit and slide the bit to get him to stop doing it. He's trying to give you more speed, and if they can't give more speed, that's what they usually do, is kind of half canter. So see there, it looks like he's trying to go into the canter. So we want to be clear, do we want a canter? We don't want a canter. So he understands what you're trying to do. So if you want to stay in the gait, I kind of sit back, slide the bit, and I go, and I slow him down a little bit. If I want a canter, then I half halt, shift my weight to the outside or to the right, and then a little right leg, and then I start pumping with the motion of the canter to get them to follow my motion. Because a lot of foxtrotters can pick up that canter pretty easily. Now, when you're cantering him, the hard part is when you go down the long side, he started off pretty well, and then he falls apart. He gets what I call flat, okay? And that means he starts coming out of his canter, and instead of having a 3-beat canter, he starts to 4-beat canter. So if you ride him with more collection and you help him a little bit more, he'll have a better canter, but you really got to engage that back end. So what I would do is, as he's cantering, every time your seat hits the saddle, give a little half halt, so squeeze and relax on the reins with both hands, and then drive with your seat and your leg at the same time, because you're trying to lighten him and get him on his back end. In the beginning, you might have to do that every single step with the horse until they get it well. The other thing that will help a lot is canter walk or canter gait transitions, where you canter a couple of steps. When they start to fall apart, come back to a gait or walk. Do that for 10 or more steps, and then go back up to the canter again. So that's another thing you can do. And then the other thing I do is I teach them all to canter in a circle, because that bend will help them, and it'll get their hindquarters underneath them. They will fall apart in the beginning, just like they are here, but you can use poles, and you can put, a couple of poles, maybe just 2 poles around like a 20-meter circle. And if he starts to fall apart, you can canter over the pole. You can also do that if you're going straight. But once you teach them to canter in a circle, then once you start going straight, if they start to fall apart, you just turn, get them in a circle. That'll get their hindquarter up underneath them again, and then you can go straight after that. And it's really an excellent tool to help them with their canter. So here you're bouncing just a little bit, and you're getting a little bit behind the motion. That leg's getting out in front of you. So that's going to set him to go lateral and lose his lead a little bit. Now the left leg does go forward with the left canter, so that might just be it, but it does look like you're sitting back a little bit far there. Oh, and he did fall out of the canter, just like I said. I didn't know that was going to happen there. So I would just go back to gating and then get your canter. There, it's very nice. You can see it's really coming up, so I'll slow that down so you can see it. But But then here he falls apart. So he lost it in the turn, which a lot of lateral horses do because they lose their balance. So you want to get more bend, and you might want to put a pole, if you're going to canter around the whole arena, put a pole in that corner to help you to keep that motion of the canter. There, he just got a little pacey. Then you got a little step pacey, and then you got back into your canter again. So again, there's lots of tools you can use to help him. He's falling apart, and you're not helping him as much as he needs. So if he falls out of the canter, shut him down, bring him back to a gait or a walk. You don't want to let him pace, because sometimes when they start pacing after a canter, they can trip and fall. So just shut him all the way down, and then you can restart. You did hit a little foxtrot right here. Start. Okay. So not bad. There's a nice canter, but then it's going to start to fall apart. So again, he starts getting flat. So using poles, transitions, and circles will help that. Okay. Just make sure that when you're going to stop, it's the best canter. Like those first couple of steps there, that would have been a good place to stop because he was cantering well. But when you stop here, he's actually falling apart. And then you stop and reward him. So in his brain, he's like, she likes the 4-beat canter that's not really collected and not that great. Okay, check. I got that. That's what they understand. So we stop them when they're doing the right thing, not when they're doing the wrong thing. If you were going to stop him there because he's falling apart, stop him, back him up, and immediately walk off. Do not give him a rest. Horses make associations very quickly. There you need to lean back a little bit more. But they make associations within seconds. So whatever they're doing, when you stop and reward them, that's what they think is the right answer. So here you're starting a leg yield. So I would just make the approach better. I don't know if you just thought you were going to do it, but I would either come up the center or come up the quarter line and start with a straight line. And then as you're going to do it, it's helpful to push them over a step, like your hands go to the right. You bring your left leg back just a couple inches, push your horse over. You can even shift your weight a little to the outside to get them to follow it. And then once he goes a step over, then close your right rein and leg against him to straighten him back out and then go again. Because with your leg yield, he's leading too much with his shoulders, and maybe it's the camera angle. But to me, his shoulders are getting there way before his hindquarters. And with the leg yield, it's a cool exercise. It will separate their legs, and you can do it at the gate and at the canter once he gets better. But you want to make sure his body's getting over there a little bit more fluidly and a little bit more straight, so he's not angled so much to the right. That one was a much better turn, except the pivot lost you. There you are. So as you're doing it, I would just come straighter. To me, he looks like he's on too much of a diagonal. So go over a step, then straight a step, over a step and straight a step. So you're kind of alternating your legs. You push him over with your right leg, and then when you go to straighten him, hold him with your left leg and take your right leg off. And the same with your reins. You have your reins going that way if that's the way you're pushing him. And then when you go straight, bring your reins back to the center. Now here, I think... Oh, I thought you were going to make circles. So you're doing your serpentine. I would just have the hand just a little bit higher. I would try to get him to bend more. And when you're doing the things of this nature, I would try to get a little more arch in his neck and bring his nose in slightly so he's in more of a round frame, because that'll help his bend. It's not bad, but I would just like him in a little bit rounder frame as he's doing this. But you're doing the serpentine well, otherwise you're supporting him well on the opposite side, so all that is good. So here you're going back up towards your running walk. He's got a nice head shake. Yep, I would just stretch up a little taller just to make the picture prettier. Bring your shoulders back and chest up, and just relax your arms a little bit. Yep, and just unless you're straightening him out, your leg doesn't have to get back that far. You're getting more like a hunt seat riding or a forward position. Just sit up tall, let that leg drape a little bit, and just be right behind the girth. So most all of the time he's doing a running walk. Occasionally when you were cantering on the turn, he would hit a fox trot. So you can feel the difference between the two. Okay. So again, he has very nice gaits, but he's more lateral. Here, it looks like he's getting tired. He's bringing his head down a little bit more. And so what I would do, it depends what gaits you want to get. But your flat walk is there. I just didn't see you do it, but it's that speed that I said. And I would practice the flat walk a lot, like 5 to 10 minutes before you start going to your next gait. Then this is your running walk. And the position you have his head in is pretty much neutral or a little bit high. But it looks fine. So your horse's frame here is kind of a neutral frame, okay? He's got a nice head shake, and as you start going around, his head starts coming down more because I'm sure he's tired. But he's mostly doing a running walk. If you want to get a foxtrot, what I would do is you have to have clear cues for it, for each gait, so the horse understands what to do. But I would frame him up more. I would teach him how to bring his head down. I would bring his head down to about here. I would put poles in a circle, and I would ride over those poles. As soon as he starts to convert and get trotty under saddle, where you feel a foxtrot, go away from the poles. If he starts to go back to his running walk, go back to the poles. So you want his head lower, his body rounder, use some poles, or you could even use those pylons you were serpentining around, and you can serpentine. But you're trying to make the legs more independent and even more separated, so he starts going to a diagonal gait. So he's staying lateral, and again, some people like that, so you don't even have to foxtrot. But if you want a real foxtrot, I would round him out more, bring his head down more, and you're going to start to get it pretty easily with him. If you want to do a saddle gait, you'll just speed up past your running walk, which he has pretty well, and keep his head up a little bit. Okay, and then if he's starting to get pacey or step pacey, you can do that speed over the poles, or you can also do it in a circle and bend him, but you're going to have to hold him together a little bit more. In other words, collect him more, and then try to get his legs to stay separated. When you do the saddle gait, it should feel faster. Okay, it's going to feel faster than this gait, and it's going to feel quite smooth. You're not going to feel much motion in the saddle at all. If you're feeling a bounce, but he's moving out and you're like, it's only just a tiny little bounce, then that's a step pace, and all you have to do is do those leg yields or make a circle or go over a pole, and that should get him into the saddle gait. And then once that happens, then stop and reward him. Same thing, if you feel him foxtrot and you're aiming for the foxtrot, then stop and reward him, which I know you know how to do because you're doing it in your videos, okay? But for his flat walk and his running walk, the frame that you have him in, right there is fine. But again, if you're going for the foxtrot, try to bring his head below the top of your saddle, which he starts to get up in here. And sometimes they'll just do the running walk in the arena and they'll foxtrot on the trail. But if he was foxtrotting, you'd have a little bit more bounce up and down in the saddle here. So if you're going to foxtrot, bring his head lower, get him to bend, go over poles, and then once he gets the foxtrot, just stop and reward, and then repeat it. And again, you just have to have clear cues, that head down for foxtrot, head up a little bit for the running walk, and then head up just a little bit more if you're going to saddle gait with him. But if you send me short clips, I can tell you if you got it or not, or you're getting in the correct direction. And then if you have any questions, let me know. It's a very nice horse. He has lots of talent. I'm sure if you wanted it, you could get a flat walk, a running walk, a foxtrot, a saddle gait, and a beautiful rocking horse canter. It just needs some work.